Hi again from Kapchora. This is home of Ugandan running champions. If you've watched my previous videos, you know I talk a lot about the hills here. But the thing is, I don't think the videos do justice. Now, the camera view is not the same as the experience being here, actually training here. And so I want to use data to try and better demonstrate this. This video will give you the opportunity to compare how many hills you run in your training with what the Ugandan athletes are doing. What's the importance of hills? Well, let me put it this way. Over the past decade, this region has gone from having a few world-class athletes to now having many. See, in 2012, Stephen Kiprotich, who's from here but had been training in Kenya at the time, won the Olympic marathon in London and inspired so many more into the sport, many of whom already had potential, partly due to their environment, with one of its features being its hilly terrain. So how will the video allow you to compare how many hills you're running with what the Ugandan athletes are doing? Well, we'll follow one of the elite athletes here, Abel, over the next week, and we'll monitor his elevation gain. Now, I imagine not many of you will be running similar mileage to what Abel is doing. So to make this relatable, we'll take his elevation gain and divide it by his distance run, and I'll give both the metric result, meters gained per kilometer run, and the imperial result, feet gained per mile run, to allow you to compare how many hills you're running with what Abel does. So now is a good opportunity for you to have a look at your training log, whether that be Strava or your GPS watch app. Have a look at your last week of training and take your elevation gain and divide it by your distance run, and go down into the comments and write your result, as well as the units you're using.
My name is called Abel. Previous marathon which I've run, I've now run like 3 marathons. First marathon I ran 2:16, then in China, Shanghai. Then second marathon I ran in 2:11 in Prague. Then third marathon I ran in Dublin. What I have realized to improve my time in marathon is I have to do much or more mileage, such that I improve my time. Then also I improve also my performance.
Now, in terms of technicals, we'll be using a GPS watch. I've asked Abel if I can follow his weekly program, see his weekly mileage. I won't initially tell him during the week that I'm looking at his hill running, his elevation gain. I will, of course, tell him at the end of the week, prior to finalizing the video, to get his permission, share it. But I won't during the week because I don't want it to influence his training. See, the thing is, if you tell someone you're looking at something, it might change their usual pattern. And I want to avoid that. I want this to best reflect what his usual training is. I'll lend him my Chorospace 2 watch. This is not product promotion. It's just that Abel's current watch, the Garmin Forerunner 45, I previously used that watch and I got some odd elevation gain results on a flat track here. I've looked into this further and found out that that version of the Garmin does not have a built-in altimeter that the Chorospace 2 does. In fact, I found an interesting article, I'll post it in the description, where this was looked into. They looked at lots of GPS watches, the Chorospace 2 and Garmin Forerunner 45 were on the list of watches they looked at, and they found the Chorospace 2 to be more accurate in this scenario. So that's why I've opted to use it. Today is Tuesday. We'll start to follow Abel from tomorrow morning. Wednesday morning, we'll follow him for a week. It's Wednesday morning. We'll take this as being the start of Abel's training week. We're just going to go and join him for an easy run. So there's been a recent question about the names here, why so many of the athletes have similar names. In Kalenjin culture, it's common for names to be descriptions of birth. So for example, Chebet is born during the day, Cheptegei is born on the veranda, Kiplimo is born when the cows go out to graze in the mid-morning. Abel is one of the more experienced members in the group. He's one of the senior athletes. We have observed things, one of the leaders as well. Often the athletes will look to him to dictate the pace of the easy runs.
First thing to be a good athlete is the first thing is to be a disciplined person. Another thing is respect the coach. Another thing is get enough rest after training. Another thing is to eat well and then take much water, such that the body be hydrated.
So I'll update you as we go along. As you'd seen with that morning run, it was 18.2 kilometers and the elevation gain was 372 meters. The Wednesday afternoon, it rained and he'd rested. The Thursday morning, he'd done some speed workouts. So it was a tempo, 8-kilometer tempo, followed by a 4-kilometer Fartlek, which totaled out to 12.2 kilometers with an elevation gain of 262 meters. That Thursday afternoon, he'd done an easy run, 8.1 kilometers with an elevation gain of 150 meters. On the Friday morning, he'd done an easy run, same route as he'd done on the Wednesday morning, 18.1 kilometers with an elevation gain of 373 meters. The Friday afternoon, he rested. So that brings his total from the Wednesday to the Friday as 56.6 kilometers with a total elevation gain of 1,157 meters. That gives a figure of 20.4 meters gain per kilometer run, or 108 feet per mile run. So it's Saturday morning. I've realized a lot of what I've been showing on the channel has been easy running. In order to race fast, you have to train fast as well. So this morning we're joining Abel for one of his Fartlek sessions. These would normally start in Yangata Road. However, it rained last night. The dirt trails will be very muddy, so we're starting in town on the tarmac road instead. So carrying on with his figures, that Saturday Fartlek was 16.0 kilometers with an elevation gain of 270 meters. That Saturday afternoon, he'd rested. On the Sunday, he did a long run. He started in Kapchora. It came to 26.1 kilometers with an elevation gain of 549 meters. The Sunday afternoon, he'd rested. The Monday morning was an easy run, 14.2 kilometers with an elevation gain of 264 meters. The Monday afternoon, he'd rested. On the Tuesday morning, when you'd normally do a track session, it had rained, the track was waterlogged. So the coach instructed they do a Fartlek instead. It was a 3-1 Fartlek, came to a total of 16.8 kilometers with an elevation gain of 257 meters. He rested on the Tuesday afternoon. So that brings his total over the course of the week to 129.7 kilometers run with a total elevation gain of 2,497 meters. That brings a result of 19.3 meters gained per kilometer run, or 101.6 feet gained per mile run. So how does that compare with your result? Let me know. Three things of note. The first, the elite athletes here will typically go down the mountain once, sometimes twice a week. I've done a video about this. Abel never went down on this occasion. They'll typically go down for speed workouts, long runs. The terrain there is flat, so that would have brought down his figure. The second is that Abel would typically do a track session once a week. As I'd said, he was unable to do it because of the rain. The track was waterlogged. Again, the track being flat, that would have brought down his figure. The third, in terms of his mileage, Abel tells me he tends to double up most days, but again, because of the rain, he wasn't running most afternoons, so his typical mileage would be higher than it was over the course of the last week. I would estimate probably about 30 to 40 kilometers more than he'd run. If this video inspires you to run more hills, just a word of caution, build gradually. I don't want to be responsible for any injuries. It's time to delete Abel's runs off my watch before it starts to predict I'll run a 2:11 marathon. Thanks to Abel, thanks for watching. Lots more to share. I'll see you on the next video.